Frontline's League of Denial is based on the book by the same name written by two ESPN investigative reporters. The book and documentary confront what the NFL knew when they knew it and how they deal with brain injury to football players. Here to talk about the medical side of the issue is neurosurgeon Alexander Kalesi, Director of Neurocritical Care at UC San Diego. Welcome.
Thank you, Peggy.
Now, Dr. Kalesi, is there, or could you explain the scientific or medical-based consensus about contact football causing brain damage?
Sure. It's a terrific question. I think the way, from a scientific perspective, I would frame the idea of brain damage is in terms of a concussion, which is a disruption of the function of the brain, and long-term structural damage to the brain, something like chronic traumatic encephalopathy. And I think it's our thinking now that repeated blows to the head, either in football or in other contexts, could absolutely lead to both of those diagnoses.
The chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is a big part of the Frontline documentary tonight, or CTE, is we've heard quite a bit about it.
Sure.
Tell us how it manifests in the body. What sort of symptoms do we see?
Sure. So the disease progresses in four fundamental phases. The first is a disruption of mood. So you can have depressive episodes, labile behavior, lashing out, and it actually progresses to disruption of executive functions, difficulty in multitasking, and it ends in full-blown dementia. I do think it's important for your viewers to understand, however, that CTE, unlike a concussion, remains an autopsy diagnosis. So you really only know if you actually suffer from the disease upon your death when a pathologist actually looks at slices of your brains and finds signs of that disease.
And in fact, a post-mortem test revealed a CTE in former Charger Junior Seau,
Sure.
as most of us know. In an interview a few years back, Seau describes what he called the perfect hit. Let's listen.
Sure.
Perfect hit is when you're faced up, coming one-on-one, and you hear him go, just a little.
He talked about the price he was willing to pay.
You have to sacrifice your body. You have to sacrifice years down the line. When we are 50, 40 years old, we probably won't be able to walk. That's the sacrifice that you take to play this game.
So he's talking about the sacrifice that must be made in order to play the game,
Sure.
even preluding to the fact that he may not be able to walk at the age of 40 or 50. Is there a way to play this game without that sacrifice? Is there a way to develop better protection or even play the game without this sort of risk?
Yeah, no question. I think that the first step is actually to fundamentally change the culture of the game. And I think a lot of things are being done in both youth sports and at the NFL level to change that thinking. I think you can inspire a culture of toughness and at the same time have perspective on what the long-term effects of that style of play are. You've seen changes in rules at the league level. You've also seen changes in technique and equipment at the youth level that I think are going a long way towards making sure that people can play a game many enjoy for a long time in a way that's safe and doesn't jeopardize their long-term health.
And we're going to come back to that, but I want to say that, you know, the NFL, of course, is a multi-billion-dollar industry and one of America's most favorite pastimes. In 2007, they reported on the NFL's own research from their mild traumatic brain injury committee, or most people call it the, you know, MTBI committee. Let's listen from this documentary
Sure.
again.
Those initial studies from the NFL were notorious in telling the world over and over and over again, no, there's no relationship between hitting your head in football and later life problems. No, there's no relationship.
Now, does medical science back that up, that there is no relationship, or have things changed a lot since that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is important when you're interpreting a statement like that. From a scientific standpoint, it's impossible to prove a negative. And we're dealing with a complex condition that plays out over time. I think there is a recognition way back to the 1920s, and when you look at boxers in series, that repeated head injury can cause long-term structural damage to the brain. I think there was, through the early 2000s and 1990s, a failure to recognize that over time that these things do indeed have an impact.
And some things have changed. I just want to get to this as far as with the NFL.
Sure.
You are part of the unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant for the NFL and are on the sidelines of Charger games.
Right.
tell me what you're doing there.
Sure, and that's something that is a program that was started this year by the NFL Concussion Committee, and the idea is that there would be 2 neurosurgical specialists, one on the sideline of each game, that would be a resource in real time for both concussion assessment that can be activated by the team, or if they're in the very rare instance of a catastrophic neurologic injury like a high spinal injury. And the way the system works is now myself and a team of 4 other neurosurgeons here in San Diego are in ready communication with the video replay booth to look and screen for hits in real time that may put a player in danger. Additionally, we're there if the Chargers team staff feels that a player may have suffered a concussion to provide a secondary real-time evaluation and help make return to play decisions. I think that's one of many steps that are being taken now to both improve the safety of the game and also to essentially switch our emphasis a little bit to in real time recognizing when these hits are taking place that may put you at later risk down the line.
All right, and there's a whole lot more on our website, kpbs.org. I also want to let folks know, Dr. Kalesi, thank you very much for your insight,
for having me.
that they can watch the entire Frontline documentary, League of Denial, right here on KPBS tonight at 9.